Okay, we are live on YouTube, and it is a very good morning from the UK, and also a good morning from Australia. And to you, Sir
G'day, mate.
Jeff, how you
How
doing?
you doing, mate? Oh, I'm going well. I'm a little bit weary. We're expecting rain here in Tasmania, which is like once in a 50-year event apparently these days.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I had to dig a few channels down to the dam because they'd kind of blocked up a little bit. So I've been on the mattock today, and of course the geese escaped as well. So I've had to do a bit of fencing and round the geese up. So it's been a bit of a day on the farm, I'd have to say.
Oh, that doesn't sound too bad, mate. Doesn't sound too bad.
Well, it wrecks
Um,
me. Mate, I'm too old. I couldn't handle that sort of stuff.
we've got a couple of minutes away from the open here, and we're just talking off air. I've actually put an order in the market just a little bit higher than where we sit right now. I'm not sure if it's going to get triggered, but I'm going to leave it where it is. It's at 75.72, or is it 73? It might be 75.73, yeah. Which 75.73 on the UK. Now, it's a sell order, so I'm looking to short this market. So it's around about 10 pips above where we currently sit, and in UK 100 words, that would be 76.37 for a sell is what I'm going for. Market has popped up. It seems pretty confident about this coronavirus being contained, so there might be some further upside. But quite like this point here. Now, if it breaks the weekly pivot, then it's time to get out of that trade. But I like this area, and it might come up and test the weekly pivot, and I'm going to stay in until then. But I want to see the price action after that and see if it takes this area out. And as I say, if it does, then I'd quite like to be out of the way of that. If it doesn't trigger me in and it just comes down, I'm going to have to ignore it, unfortunately, which may well happen. The price action's just got a little bit weak early doors here. So we look at this on a 5-minute chart. You can see it's just weakening just somewhat here. So yeah, might not get the opportunity, but I have put that sell order in the market. If it does fail here, maybe it pops up and gets me in later. I don't know, but I am bearish the market this morning anyway. I think there is enough. There's not enough detail on this coronavirus to suggest that they've really got it contained as yet. That's the first aspect, but. The other thing that I'm quite interested in is this impeachment trial that is happening next week, and I think that there might be just a bit of uncertainty, and if we kind of consider the things that push the market to the downside, it is things like uncertainty. So I'm just looking to see whether that uncertainty actually filters through into the market price action. But
Could
I'd
they
like to.
impeach Donald? Could they really get rid of him?
I think it's unlikely, mate. But I suppose as they ramp up the they ramp up the investigation and they ramp up with the trial, then there's always that chance. And I suppose while there's a chance, then I think it's worth playing. It's worth us just getting out of the way until that particular part of the financial picture is cleared at least. We just don't know. It's they're going to go after. They are going after him, and they're going to introduce some. They're going to introduce some witnesses into the trial now, and it's really going to be down to whether they can convince the Republicans to actually vote with their head, or vote with their honesty rather than their political position. So, even though I don't think it will happen, I think just that little chance might sneak into the market sentiment, and it might just give us an opportunity to take a little bit of a short on for a little while. Decent recovery though. Another good bounce yesterday. Another huge bounce to the upside. I caught a little bit of it, but literally a little bit of it. I managed to get it in right at the low, but I just didn't hold on for long enough. Because
Mate, we better place this pound trade before it
oh
triggers,
gosh, yeah, let's do
and I'll
that.
come
Let's
back
do
to you.
that.
Okay.
That's okay, mate. Yeah, that's all right. The orders are the levels are in. So let me give you the screen.
Oh, golly dokey. All right. Anybody who's brave enough to place the pound trade, which has had 6 or 7 in a row, loses, and I kid you not. Now is the time to be thinking, OMG, is this something that I need to be involved with or otherwise? But you know what happens if you don't trade this? If you stop trading right now, it wins 20 in a row. So I'm not doing anything different than I have in the past 7 days. So we're placing a short order underneath the daily pivot here. The entry level is at. Let me give it to you. 1.3040, so 1.3040. The stop loss is at 1.3073, and vice versa for the long. Entry 1.3073, stop loss 1.3040. Okay, they're the parameters for today's trade. Would I take it? And this is the question I was asking myself yesterday. Do we need to add the common sense discretion to this particular scenario? Hang on, I've got to sneeze. Wow, I managed to mute there, which avoided you guys copying a Force 10 gale in your ear rolls, which is fantastic. Do you know, Ash, the velocity of, I won't call it anything but air coming out of your body at the time of sneezing is absolutely unbelievable. And I can't remember what it is, but it's like the power of a cannon shooting a cannonball. Unreal. If you can picture that sort of thing, and that's why projectiles out of your mouth when you sneeze go a heck of a long way, and they cause a lot of damage to people who are in the way. Let's get off that subject though, and talk about this trade. Those of you who are not aware, we're trading the breakout of London session, opening of London session. We're trading a pound breakout, and we have had 6 or 7. I'll go to the chart shortly. 6 or 7 losers in a row, and that is not ideal. Of course, we are still in front of the equity curve, going back to November of last year, but it is not pretty at the moment, I've got to tell you. So if you've just joined us, the entry level for this one is and there are both. It's a one cancels other trade or OCO trade. We've got a long placed here. We've got a short placed here. The short stop loss is the long entry, and vice versa. The entry for the short, stop loss for the long is 1.3040. The entry for the long and the stop loss for the short is 1.307. I've forgotten 3, I think. Let me clarify that. 1.3073 is correct. Okay, if we get triggered into this trade either way, I'll immediately go to a 15-minute chart. This is an hourly chart, and I will trail 2 bars. If we go into the trade short, I'll trade 2 seller bars. So in other words, if you get 2 seller bars in the row after entry, like we have here, stop loss would move to here. If we get 2 buyer bars, if we're going long, then exactly the same applies. So we put our stop every time you get two buyer bars in a row or 2 seller bars in a row. If you're going short, you move your stops to the high of the first seller bar. So assuming we're in the trade right now, our stop loss, had we entered here somewhere, our stop loss would be above the first of the 2 seller bars. Okay, that is the way we manage this, and that's on a 15-minute chart. We may be looking at different ways to trade this, or not different ways, but different trade method or trade management is the word I'm looking for. Given that we're in a very, very poor sequence of 6 or 7 losses in a row, as I said. Ash, do you want to talk more about the FTSE? or is that
No,
pretty
I mean,
much
to be honest,
where we are?
yeah, it's the situation with the pound is another reason that I quite like the FTSE for a short. I mean, the pound is easing back this morning, and I think shorts the pound is probably still the play, but there's just been just enough uncertainty created from the numbers yesterday, which would suggest that the FTSE is unlikely to kind of burst out maybe until that rate decision. But you know it's really just kind of it's really just giving my perspective on the reasons why I'm looking for a short in the market. But yeah, I mean, we can come back to, mate, and let's look at some charts that might actually link to that a little bit as well with the FTSE. Might kind of give us just a little bit
All
more
right, sure.
validity.
For those of you just joining us, pretty much I trade currencies and pretty much nothing else. Ash trades pretty much the FTSE with a keen eye on currencies, but doesn't get into them too much. But I never trade the first bar of London session on a 30-minute chart with my currencies. So that's why it's now timely to go back to Ash. And I'll have a look at what the first 30-minute bar is doing on the currency pairs. And when we come back to me, I'll give you some ideas about what we might be able to trade in the next hour or so.
Yeah. Good stuff, mate. I've just moved my order down just a little bit, just to get this high here. So my entry is just on the high. So anybody looking at it, if you go to your what is 8 o'clock on MT4 bar, then that's the high price, the highest price that I'm entering short on. I've put my order in there. So let's just just check across the board and see what's driving things today. And I think when I looked at the drivers today for the market, I did kind of think, well, you know, it looks like a fairly benign day in many respects when it comes down to news and data, and it might actually create a fairly choppy market, which may well give us some opportunities to get in, but I don't think there's going to be much movement. This is really what we're looking at for the day. Not a great deal of interesting news from the UK. Business industrial orders will move the pound a little bit, especially if it's a big number. The public sector net borrowing, not so much. But then we really go over to Canada, and Canada's not a huge market mover when it comes down to the FTSE. It's not that heavily linked to Canada. I think later on, when we start to see some existing home sales from the US, then maybe that has a little bit of an impact. But we are in earnings season, and as far as I'm aware, Netflix posted earnings last night that I think they were under analyst expectations, but there was another one that posted earnings that was pretty good. So there are some earnings reports out there as well. But really, you know, when we start to step into tomorrow, it starts getting a lot more interesting. Monetary policy statement from the ECB. That's obviously a huge number and a huge interest. But we're really looking at the press conference. So really looking at Thursday to actually get some proper direction in the market. But I'm happy to trade it short up until that point and then see what happens. And then it's big numbers from the UK, flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI, and we get ECB President Lagarde speaking all at 9:30 a.m. So it could be an interesting morning on Friday for market movements. But aside from that, I think, you know, today's quite benign, and because of what we got coming up, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of decision making made in the market and a whole lot of movements. So I'm quite happy just to effectively put my order in and leave it where it is, rather than you know, even though I like the short, I'm not going to dive in here just because it's easing back a little bit. I want that better price, and then see what happens from there on in, because I think it could be quite a choppy day really with the market. So talking about the pound is easing to the downside right now, and the question is, will it start to break through these levels? And it's always, you know, when you've got data coming out in a few days' time, there's always that anticipation. Will people buy into it? Will they sell into it? Or will they hold? And you know, just for right now, we've got a trend line popping up here around about the weekly pivot. So that looks like the bounce area if it's going to go and stick in the position. I don't think it's going to ease up. I mean, I think when it comes down to the pound, I think that the overall sentiment is for downside because of the because of the MPC members suggesting that they would be happy to lower the interest rate mark. So, I'm not really looking at data to really be throwing the pound to the upside right now. I think it's much more likely that the anticipation will be all down until we get those numbers. But so that would be my particular play on that. Now that won't help the FTSE, move to the downside, but I think that there are probably other issues out there that may just allow it to do so. So I'm looking for an easing down. Now, if the FTSE does come down, I'm not looking for it to collapse. So if it comes down, I'm looking for a buy zone to go long, and I'll be happy to do that. But I just don't like it in this particular area. And I'd also be quite happy to take a short and hold on to it until I get my long in the market, which will make the long safe. So that's the idea that I've got going on with the FTSE in relation to the pound. S&P took a little bit of a pause yesterday, if anything, but then it made fresh highs yet again. Towards the end of the day, an inverted head and shoulders right the way at the top of a trend is not something that I would regularly trust, but this one did seem to work out. So the S&P has eased back to the upside and eased back into positive territory and eased back into all-time highs again. So it doesn't look like that market's abating. Dow Jones Industrials, different picture entirely, really. Unable really to break through this level with any kind of confidence, and maybe that start to suggest that just a little bit of easing back, possibly until that impeachment scenario just clears up a little bit, could be the name of the game for the Dow. Still uncertain, and you've still got to look long, but it could be a little bit of easing back. Wouldn't be suggesting the short just yet. And yesterday, looking at the dollar yen, this was a really interesting one yesterday because it was the safe haven that people seemed to rush to when we had that coronavirus announcement. But again, the dollar yen didn't break down like I thought it may do. And it broke down a little bit yesterday, but it popped back up again this morning, and it continues to stay above these levels. But I still quite like this one for a potential short, but we're still waiting for a bit more clarity on that. WTI, so looking at crude, as I said yesterday, not interested in WTI for the long at all. I think crude has got to be sold off at every given opportunity. Looks like the best possible price right now is somewhere around about the 159.30 area. And the VIX was the big winner yesterday as the market started to move to the downside, gap to the upside. Maybe it eases back. And you can see that here it takes quite a while at times for the VIX to close gaps because it's such an emotive market that it's not like the FTSE that or one of the indices that just doesn't like that vacuum. The VIX can handle a vacuum and it doesn't mind that vacuum holding for quite some time. But with this easing back, it's not suggesting that there's a risk off sentiment in the market. Apple are going to be announcing earnings next week. So the NASDAQ is, I would have thought because of the iPhone release coming fairly soon.
Call that a bear trend, Ash, or?
A bear trend?
Yeah. Holy mackerel.
I know. Do you know what? Somebody was saying to me about trading recently, and they said you can't get a better looking chart than the NASDAQ right now. I mean this, and I think Palladium is the other one that just keeps on going and going and going. As I say, Netflix reported after the bell, and I don't think the numbers were particularly good. But then it was also joined by, who was the other tech firm that reported? But they had pretty good numbers, I believe. But Apple are the big ones, Apple, as I say, Apple will be reporting next week, and because Apple report next week, I think people will probably be looking at, looking to buy into that scenario, and Apple are the main player on this market.
Who was that tech dude you were talking about months and months ago? We were talking about, gee whiz, it won't come to my mind.
Bezos?
No. Let me think. I'll come back.
Okay.
In video or someone?
Oh, NVIDIA, yes.
NVIDIA. Yeah. How they do it?
Do you know what? I don't know. I liked NVIDIA actually for a play, and it was really as much as anything else, just kind of like try and hop on with a little bit of the cryptocurrency the cryptocurrency surge. Just thinking that having a stock would be a much better way to play those cryptocurrencies. But we'll have a look at that in a second. This is Bitcoin, incidentally. Looks like a head and shoulders pattern up here, but I actually quite like Bitcoin. You know, for a longer term run, I think Bitcoin's got some validity. You know, it broke to the upside. It's still, you know, struggling to maybe break out of this particular zone, but I quite like this one for some further upside. I don't know whether we're quite at the point where I'd see some reversal just yet, but I do like this one, and subsequently I think Nvidia could be a decent play. But yeah, I'll have a look at Nvidia.
That's a chart pattern that I was trying to master about 7 years, let's say 7 years ago, and I called it the Scotch Terrier.
Yeah,
but I never worked it out.
Never worked out.
No, I never worked out what it meant.
Oh, okay.
Can you see it though?
The Scotch Terrier.
Yeah, just use the.
Oh yeah, so that's the tail. These are the ears.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. You got it. Yeah. I wasn't looking at the tail. That's better still. Okay. I was only looking at the head.
Yeah. So what's this down here?
Or overfed.
Oh, that's his belly. So he's got a big belly. There's his tail.
Overfed,
there.
oversold. There you go.
Yeah. There's the oversold. There's his ears. So this is his
Just
head.
saying. Yeah. There's nothing concrete in this, but I did notice that particular pattern 5 or 7 years ago, and
it does look pretty good, doesn't it?
I never settled on it.
It looks pretty good for some. It looks pretty good for some, you know, further upside. I think it looks like it's broken out of this level now. You know, and it was trapped there for quite some time. But last week we saw a huge surge to the upside. So I think people could start joining in with this around about 7.7 maybe, around 7,700, 7,770, something like that. I think that there could be some further upside with Bitcoin. But yeah, I quite like the look of that. But aside from that, mate, I don't have anything else. I will check, see how Nvidia's going.
All right. While you're doing that, maybe I can go through a few currency pairs and see if we've got anything that's worthy of our attention. Okay, I'm going to start with the trade of I'll call it the trade of the month that I'm not in. That's probably the best way to describe it. And it happened on a Friday of last week. I think this was probably the one, if I look back on January, I think I'm going to say this is the one that I missed and pretty pissed. Upset. Did we get barred from YouTube? I'm not sure. So here it is. Very, very clear. We're looking for a reason to go short on the Aussie, and we're looking for, well, maybe even we're looking for a right shoulder to match the left shoulder here in the head after a nice, after a nice neckline is formed. This is probably as good a neckline as I will see. Reason, because the right neckline on a genuine head and shoulders is above the left neckline for mine. That's just me. That could be, there's 100,000 different ways to trade head and shoulders, but this is the way I trade it. And I'm not in yet, right? I'm not in, but I should have been in on this bar here. This is the bar to trade, without question. And my good friend, again, who shall remain nameless, but has the initials Paul Bottrell, managed to get that trade right there. And I'm just this slightly tad disappointed that I wasn't trading on Friday morning to pick that up, because it was there, sitting there like a sore toe. Anyway, that said, we also had a break of this neckline this morning, or overnight if you like. And of course, the conservative side of me says, don't trade the dominant break, wait for the retest of the daily pivot. And that's, so I'm still waiting. This could, of course, just clear out. I don't think it will, to be fair. I think it will bounce off here when it gets to this trend line. And maybe we're even there. I've got this we're very, very close to it. So I think this has got bounce potential. And if it bounces back to the weekly pivot, I probably get a second opportunity to trade this. If it happens on Friday, I'm going to kick it down the road as hard as I possibly can and tell me, don't ever come near me again. It means I'll have to get up on Friday and before I go about my work and have a look. That's more likely than not that it will happen on Friday than it will today or tomorrow, if it's to happen, of course. I am extremely bearish the Aussie for more fundamental reasons than anything, I suppose. And I'm bullish the dollar. Why am I bullish the dollar? Well, I've shown you guys the well, maybe not everybody, but I've shown you the dollar index chart, and the dollar index chart for mine is extremely bullish. Maybe I should show it to you again. New share. Let's go.
Just
there.
got triggered into the FTSE, mate. Just for everybody out
right,
there.
Mate, we're already short the pound, and I'm getting too scared to look. There we go. Hopefully you can see very shortly. I don't see it on YouTube yet, but I'm trying to show you there it is, the dollar index. Now the dollar index, for those of you who don't know, is a measure of the strength of the US dollar versus the 7 big currencies. So, or 6 of the 7, I think it is actually at the end of the day. Why am I so bullish the US dollar? It's because of this chart, alone. So don't care how you look at it, but to me that's a left shoulder, that's a head, that's a right shoulder. And again, if I put this line in place, this is perfect for me because our right shoulder is lower than our left shoulder in this case, because it's an inverted head and shoulder. So we've broken that. We've come back and retested it. We've put in a rejection bar thereafter, and I can't see why we won't go to this level in the first instance, and maybe even back up here in the second instance, or maybe in third instance, on a third, fourth, or even fifth wave of rallying. So that's, one of the reasons I'm bearish Aussie dollar. The other has got to do with all the disasters that are going on in the country, including drought, bushfire, blah, 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 you name it, we're getting it. And I don't see that as being positive in any way, shape or form. So if I can't get short Aussie US dollar, I'm going to be bitterly disappointed when it gets down to around about the 60-cent mark, because that's now 800 odd pips away. What I'm saying is there's plenty of opportunity to get into this if you are so inclined. So there's no need to rush, in my humble opinion. And you may even look to get in on a weekly chart if we've got a retest of this area here. Whatever. I think there's plenty of opportunity to get short the Aussie. There's technical reasons also. We've been in a very strong bear trend for a long, long time. Yes, we've had a base. Yes, we've had higher lows and higher highs. And we may well get another rally. I've got no problem with that. But this is smelling to me like a bear channel, aka a flag, if you like, a bear flag. And for that reason, I just can't be bullish in any way, shape or form. I have to be a bear here. Got to take profit before these lows. It is a strong base, there's no question. But if you can possibly get into Aussie US dollar short in I'll call it a safe fashion, then I think you'll be on the right play. I spent far too much time on that. We'll go to Aussie Kiwi, where I do have a trade in the market at the moment. I traded this bar here short. I was very tempted to trade it either way, actually, short and long, because I thought that was probably where we were at in terms of we're at a support level. We're underneath a resistance level. Are we going to oscillate between the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot? Weekly pivot stepped up, and we retested that, or tested that, if you like. That gave me the opinion that if it came back to this low, we would continue on to the bottom. Now, I very, very, very rarely trade short at support, but there is enough room here to take profit, and that's why I thought that was a reasonable position to take, based again on the bearishness of my bias on the Aussie And that anonymous person with the initials Paul Bottrell tells me that the Kiwi is has got every right to rally at the moment. So I thought that was a reasonable position to take. At the moment, where am I? I'm a little bit above my entry, which is of course negative, but I do expect that this will test these lows at some stage. If you are inclined to trade, sorry, I should have gone back to the. I'm giving you an overview where I should be giving you tradability. It's 3 minutes before these candles close. So let's look at the 30-minute charts. Okay, I'm an Aussie bear. Can I trade the Aussie short at the moment? Answer, not on your Nelly. Why? A few reasons, but one is I'm trading straight into support. Another is there's an untested daily pivot above me. And if you have a look at this chart, you don't really need to know too much more, because we've got below the daily pivot, came back, tested it, bounced off it, got below the daily pivot, came back, tested it, bounced off it, got above the daily pivot, came back, tested it, and bounced off it. Do I need to say any more? Probably not. There's a pattern going on here, guys. So I'm not willing to trade this short at the moment. That's without question. What would I like to see? Well, you see the daily pivot, see this trend line, exactly the same. So let's get back here to one or both of them preferably, and then look to short the market. This is a bad place to go short. No. Not saying it can't, not saying it won't. But what I am saying is this is a very, very low probability place to go short. And this is a far higher probability place to go short. So is this. So that's where I'm at with the Aussie at the moment. Got to have some retracement before I can trade it. Is Aussie Kiwi the same? More than likely. We haven't had a look. Oh my God, what a mess. That's untradeable. Forget it. I'm not even going to comment on it. You cannot trade that on a 30-minute chart. It's impossible. Aussie CAD, I really don't have any interest right now, except to say that we have broken the support level for probably second and final time, I would have thought, for some time. Depends a lot, of course. It is, I'll call today CAD day. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, but it's also CAD day. There's so much going on in the CAD today that it's not funny.
Yeah.
The economists will be absolutely sweating and putting in overtime claims, I'm sure, by the time we've ended the day. But a lot will depend on what happens in the ensuing 6 or 8 hours, maybe even 10 or 12 hours. I'm not sure what the timing is, but I don't want to be jumping into a CAD trade at the moment. If I were in one, I'd be extremely happy if I was safe, because you could get a hell of a ride today on the CAD if you are fortunate enough so to do, but not for me. So we'll leave that one alone. Wow, this is so confusing. Why? Because this was my trade of Monday. Was it Monday? Where are we? Tuesday. On the daily chart, we had a beautiful setup, absolutely glorious setup on the daily chart on euro dollar. Very clear potential false break of not only the trade line here, but the top of the channel. We got underneath the trade line, we got underneath the top of the, I'll call it a rectangle, not a channel, and then we had the beautiful retest. That's what you're looking for, except you'd really like it to close on its high. That would be better still. I couldn't take that trade, and the reason I couldn't take that trade, it's a short entry, right? The reason I couldn't take that trade was because we had major news coming out of Japan yesterday. Yes, which is this bar here. Now, clearly that went with what I saw. Now, it could just have easily have gone against what I saw, and we could have got burned. The reason I was so hesitant to take that trade was because of the size of the candle. It's too small to withstand any whipsaw action at all. And I'm not sure how that candle formed actually, but it may well have given you a whipsaw before it went short, don't know. But here's the thing. We have broken this trade line. This is a 4-hour trade line, not a daily trade line. And we're now retesting that. So let's go and see if there's an opportunity here to get back into this. And that's the ugly scene that I see. Why is it ugly? Well, because the way I like to trade trade lines, which is what this thing is, this red thing, is I like to see a break and retest and go short, or I like to see a break, consolidation, re-entry above it, and retest from above. This has not only done that, but it's gone through the daily pivot and it's retesting the daily pivot as well. OMG. This is telling me there's a strong opportunity to trade this long. Now, when I think about that, I think, okay, I'm a bear, but what have we got here? We've got, I can't even call that a low. I can call that a low. So we've got a lower low, we've got a lower high, we've got a lower low. What if we went to here? Would that still be a lower high? Hell yeah. So why can't I trade that back to there? I think I can. So if my bias is actually wrong and this takes off to the high side and we get into the trade and take profit here, well, happy days, isn't it? So that's exactly what I'm going to do in 1 hour, 26 minutes and 20 seconds. I'll be placing a long order here with my stop loss under here. If this bar stays at, oh my God, there's a wind blowing here. That's the door that just fell off. We've got a bar here that I like. We've got a scenario that I like. So this is smacking of a false break to me. So I will be placing a long above this on Euro Yen, 100% against my bias, which is short, but that's okay. I'm happy to trade that to here, but not beyond here without taking profit. So there has to be profit in the bank. Yes, I'll leave something open in case my bias is incorrect and we go smashing through the highs, and that would be happy days. Euro pound. Yeah, look, interesting, very interesting. I'm actually in a Euro pound short trade as a bounce off here on another account. I wasn't in any trading webinar when I took this trade, so I couldn't tell anyone. It wasn't strong enough to put out as a signal either. So I'm going okay on that. We've now broken through the support trade line. We've retested the support trade, and I've got no reason to think this can't go to the bottom of this range, maybe even monthly pivot. If it does that and retests here, this could go. It really could go. But how are they going to get behind the pound is the question. So I certainly won't be trading through here without taking major profits. Certainly not the monthly pivot. So really, I'm just range trading, and I'm probably looking at a bounce off here if it does come. It's a race to the bottom maybe with the euro and the pound, so it's really hard to pick. Here's Euro Kiwi. I've also got an order placed on this, as you can see. It's on the daily chart. And the reasoning behind this is not dissimilar to what I've discussed on probably 1 or 2. This is a massive bear trend. This is a very strong and clear retracement at this stage. It's a retracement for me. You could call it a trend. We've got higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. What happens next? Well, if we get a higher high, then my trade won't be entered. But if this is now a retracement about to break short, then I've got a very strong chance of being in that. I do like the fact that yesterday's bar didn't pierce above the weekly pivot, but that's kind of under a little bit of pressure now. So it's not as clear cut as it was yesterday, that's for sure. But I've got no reason to change my mind here at this point. The stop is a little bit of an issue because we're bang on it with today's bar at its high. I do like the level though. I think it's a nice place for this to have failed at, let's put it that way. We've got a support level here that has been breached, but breached only very briefly, back underneath, retest. I've got no reason not to think this can go short. So that's the trade that I'm in at the moment. Euro, sorry, not in the trade, I've got a position. If you want to have a look at that, the entry level is at 1.6775. I've got a stop loss of 60 pips. going to get rid of a third of the position at 50 pips of profit, and then I'll just see what happens thereafter and manage that accordingly. I'm getting close to the end of my watch list, Ash.
Yeah.
Probably there, actually. Aussie Yen's, well, actually, it has come back and done what I asked it to do this morning. I said I'd like to continue the short scenario bias with the Aussie Yen, but I needed to see a daily pivot test before I got interested. Pretty big bar in context to actually look to trade if I'm looking to enter short here, I've got to say. So I need something a little bit better than that, maybe on the smaller time frames. Let's see if there's something available. Untested daily pivot yet, it didn't quite make it. So yeah, that gives me some interest. Let's put a trade line in. We've got one here, so later in the day, maybe around US session time, we could find our way back to the daily pivot, sneak out, find the monthly pivot, consolidate back underneath both, retest. Yeah, that'll do me. If I saw something like that, that would be very, very interesting on Aussie Yen. So that's me on Aussie Yen. We are at the bottom of the range on Euro CAD on the daily. Again, going back to the CAD news, this is not a day to be entering, speculating on what the CAD may or may not do. So I won't be looking at that. I will wind it up though with Euro Dollar. I've been a massive bear Euro Dollar for the longest time, it seems, but really it's only for the last month or so. And, you know, blow me down. Can I find a way in? Answer no. There was an opportunity there. Guess when that happened? When I wasn't in front of the charts. Have I got something to look at today is the question. Good Lord, I'm lost here. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, so yes, we had a trend line in place on the daily chart. We kind of broke it, or did we? Did we get a retest, or did we? But then we got this. This was the bar to trade, and I haven't, and I didn't. But that said, it's a very poor reward to risk trade because your risk has to be here, maybe even here where price is at the moment. Your stop loss has to be here. So you're looking at a risk of 43 pips, let's say. Your most immediate reward, and it is a level through here, is only at about what, 3, 4, 5 pips. Ain't good reward to risk here, in my opinion. So I'd really like to see that break and a retest of maybe everything here. So break the trend line, come back above, and test the daily pivot, the broken trend line, this broken trend line. Then I'd be happy to go short. Yes, I'm a fan, absolute fan of going short here, but timing is everything, and I don't think now is the right time. Although it's a beautiful candle, I like it. I think there's a little bit more to be seen here in terms of a retrace, so I'm not going to enter on that bar. Mate, I think that's pretty much as we need to say. Everyone should have a reasonable idea of what I'm looking for, and just as usual, we need a little bit of patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the FTSE 100 has triggered in, as I say. It's dipped down a little bit. It's triggered us in, but it hasn't really kind of gone anywhere as yet. But let's see.
Same.
As you say, yeah. Let's see what happens with that. I was just doing a little bit of filling in the journal just while you were doing that. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a waiting game. As I said before, I think it's going to be a fairly benign day. Just so everybody's aware that the top 20 stocks, which I look at in the UK, are actually slightly bullish. You know, they're changing somewhat, but nothing kind of like manic's going on. They're around about 60% in positive territory, so it could be a bit of a grind. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. US dollar index chart where I wasn't showing you my charts. My sincere apologies. And there's not a lot I can do. I can't retrace it. Sorry, NG, I didn't see your question telling me that. It wasn't hung. It was me on the wrong chart. My sincere apologies. But I hope you got the idea through my voiceover Oh dear. Sincere apologies, guys.
That's all good. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, mate. Same trade time, same trade channel at 5 to 8.
5 to 8, that's the date. Don't you be late. And you might even see the right charts when I'm talking about them, guys. Sincere apologies for that. We got a meeting coming up, Ash.
We do indeed. We do indeed.
Radio.
All right. Yeah. See you guys. Have a good trading day. Hopefully this FTSE trade works out for us and we can get back to winning ways. Not been on the greatest run of all time, but it's always a matter of time. It will turn eventually. All right. Have a great time, guys. Yeah, and the pound is so exactly that. You know, it's just one of those, isn't it? Maybe this is the one that changes things around. Okay. Have a good one, and we will see you tomorrow.
Hooroo, guys.